this week in class, we will be talking about moving desk, branding my classroom, and being somebody's favorite teacher. So, this is week 4 of me teaching. You know what? It's funny. I heard a joke about how people talk about babies, right? You know, when they're first born, you know, you don't do years, you do months, but people do the months for a really long time. So I wonder if I keep this going, if I'm going to keep doing weeks, right? So, you know, after you've been teaching like 10 years, you know, do you still do the weeks? I don't know. But yeah, so week 4. I did a few different things, and just real quick, I wanted to jump back to last week. I don't think I said what craft I made, right? Remember I said the crafts are just a really big hit with the kids. They like it, you know, they like creating, and then they like having something to show for it. So what I did last week was a thing called bee buzzers, right? So basically you take a popsicle stick. Do I have it? I don't have it. I have one, but it's downstairs in my desk. But take a popsicle stick, you put 2 eraser caps on it, and then you also take a piece of an index card and you staple it to the popsicle stick, so it's in between them, right? You know, so you know, think about like it's like you make like a little flag, kind of, right? Then you tie on a thread. I notice just for optimum usage, you probably want it to be about 2 to 3 feet long, right? Tie a thread. Yeah, probably about 3 feet long. You tie a thread to it, and then you put a big thick rubber band around the ends of the erasers. So when you spin it, it makes a buzzing sound, you know, between the rubber band and then the piece of index cards, you know, so the kids enjoy it. And I even, you know, it's a science moment, right? Because you can point out, hey, when you spin it slower, it makes a different sound than when you spin it faster. So that was last week. How do we want to start? Oh, well, this week we made, what would you call it? I guess, you know, kind of like art, right? And, you know, the goal was to introduce them to the scientific method, right? Because it was like, hey, this is how we're starting. Based on how we're starting, what do you think things are going to look like at the end, right? So we took a coffee filter and we put it on a plate, and then we colored the coffee filter, and then we sprayed the coffee filter with water. So then what you end up with is the marker transfers to the plate. It may run a little bit, so you kind of have this almost tie-dye type situation going on, you know, and they love it. They love it. I think that's one of the things that it makes school fun, because you have so much work to do. And then I think the transition between first and second grade can be a lot. So, you know, you have to find a way to give them joy in work, because otherwise it's like, hey, man, this ain't like first grade at all. And I think some of the kids are experiencing that. And then it's important for them to have that step, because third grade is even further away in terms of the fun you had in kindergarten and first grade. You know, between second grade and third grade is another big jump. So it's like you're trying to push them to that point where they're more comfortable with, okay, I mean, I can have fun at school, but school is for learning, and I got to find the joy in that. So one thing that I was like working on, I mean, I've done it. So outside of teaching, I make t-shirts, right? So I'm like, well, I mean, if I'm gonna be working here, then I'm gonna make my own stuff. And I think I kind of delayed, but I'm gonna pretty much do that, because every Friday we kind of have basically Spirit Day. So definitely on Friday, you know, I'll wear my stuff, and I just think I need to just get a whole lot more. And in general, if that's the thing you do, you know, I know everybody has a Cricut machine these days. I really make it an effort to only wear stuff that I make. If I'm not, then either it's stuff I already had, and it's either pajamas or stuff that like I'm washing a car with or something like that, or it's something that I've had before, but I don't really want to pay for the right to advertise for other folk anymore. That's the way I see when wearing clothing by other designers, or if you my people, if you my friend, you know what I mean, and you have a line, I'm happy to wear your stuff. To me, that makes sense. But a lot of the big designers, I'm like, well, why? Like I don't have to. I'm not saying nobody else has to, but they're fine without Michelle's money, so they can keep moving. One thing that's funny, people keep telling me that as a teacher, you listen. I have some people say they move, they move desks. I don't know if they move them every day, but definitely every week, right? Because you see how your class is going, you assess it, and if there's too much talking or some people aren't getting along, you say, well, let me adjust this and let me adjust that and see if I can get the mixture just right. So I moved some things, and I actually wasn't in the class for 2 days this week, so I didn't get to kind of put my foot down on things and make sure that things are okay. So the substitute came into a different mix, and not like they were there before, right? So, but maybe this mix is a little bit more chaotic in different ways, or maybe the kids have to adjust to this mix. That's the other thing. Like, just because the mix isn't working, maybe it needs time. I don't know. Got to figure that out. You know what I mean? But I might have some moving to do on Monday morning, right? So we'll see. Also, so one thing I did last week was, so as a new teacher, my training is kind of ongoing. So they had me shadow 2 teachers and, just kind of sit in their class and take notes and figure out what things I liked and what things I wanted to move into my classroom. And I even told the students when I came back on Friday, like, hey, we're going to be making some adjustments, and it'll be bit by bit, but we'll make adjustments as we go. So like one thing I like now, of course, everybody's going to school, right? So everybody's accustomed to the idea of morning announcements, but because of how instruction kind of needs to happen and how little time you have, I saw one teacher move her morning announcements to snack time, because second grade you still have snack time. I was like, oh, great. So it's like you're doing instruction from the minute they walk in, and then when you have a break, that's when you kind of do your leisure type things. So that's one thing I liked, and I think that's one thing that I'm going to adopt. The other thing is, some of the teachers had good morning slides that really had all of the instructions for the morning on the slide. So it's like, hey, remember, and you don't necessarily have to keep telling them what to do. You could actually just refer them back to the slide. And if you do that enough, when they come in, they know, oh, everything I need to know to do is on the slide. So I need to look at that when I come in, and, in second grade, there's a lot of things that they're capable of, that they can read. And then you can help it by, depending on how the slide flows, you can put pictures of the things that you want them to do. And they'll start making those connections and start kind of understanding things, even if they're not that strong of a reader just yet. And then the other thing I noticed was, and I call it branding the classroom, right? There are certain places where people would clap or, make certain sounds, and then, they had like a call and response type thing that everyone in the class knew. And it wasn't the same for every teacher. Every teacher kind of had their own thing. And I'm trying to work to kind of get my own branding, right? Like like with my photography, name of my photography company is A Sharp Photo, right? So I had that for a while, and then when I saw Avengers Infinity War, at the end of Infinity War, right, you have Thanos. He uses the blue Infinity Stone, and he comes into Earth, And on his way in, Captain America was like, "Yo, everybody, eyes up, stay sharp." And I adopted that as like a closing button for when I say stuff with a sharp photo. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, because my goal for my classroom is to make it superhero themed. So in terms of branding, I want to put those types of things in places, so it's like, oh, like if we're working on learning even numbers, what can I do? Or if I need them to be quiet, what things can I do that are specific to me and my brand as a teacher, that kind of makes it fun for them, but then also gives them the directive that I want to give them. So that's like one of those things. If you got stuff, great. Like I know somebody, like when they want the class's attention and they need everyone to be quiet, they say thunder goes, and then the whole class says clap, clap. Rain goes, shh, and everybody does that. And that's cute. And I might just do that if I don't come up with anything else. But those are the things that kind of create, I guess, memories and definitely community in the classroom, and it's an immediate signal. So I also just kind of in line with the branding thing, trying to work on my motivation system. So most teachers have one teacher, she's just gaga about Disney, right? So her whole class is Disney. And then what she gives them is she calls it Mickey money. So if they do the things they're supposed to do, they get Mickey money at the end of the day. And then they can use that Mickey money to buy things out of her store. When the other teacher I watched, her motivation system is based around a book I think it's called like How Full Is Your Bucket, or How to Fill Your Bucket, something like that. And it's this idea of you doing and being positive, and that filling your bucket and then filling the bucket of people around you. So since she did that, she has like, she uses glass beads and rocks as raindrops, and then she drops that in everybody's bucket. And I personally love that, because when she does that, everybody kind of they hear those drops going in the bucket. So it's almost like an auditory reinforcement. So even if they weren't doing what they were supposed to do, and even if it wasn't going in their bucket, they're like, oh yeah, that's right, I gotta straighten up and fly right in order to get, more drops in my bucket. So that's kind of cool. So I want to figure out, how can I do this as, what do you need, sir? You don't have to have that discussion with me right now. Go take your shower. But yeah, have to figure out what types of things I want to do in my classroom, that are particular to the brand that I'm trying to bring across in terms of superheroes. All right, so last thing, and this is quick, is so I try to reach out to parents and say something to them about their child before I have to say anything negative, right? And of course, you hope that you don't have to say anything negative. But some kids, you'll never say anything that they have to correct or do right. You'll never have to say anything all year. Some kids, you'll kind of constantly have to say, hey, maybe talk to your child about this, or this happened in class today, blah, blah, blah. It is what it is. Every kid's different, right? So I try to make sure that I say something positive as early as possible, so when I have to have more difficult conversations, our relationship is already built on, well, hey, he's talked to me and he's told me great things about my kids. So if he has to tell me things that are not so great, I know it's not coming from a bad place, because he's willing to say positive things about my kid. So that's what I want to get across to the parent. Like, hey, kid's great most of the time. Can we just fix this one thing? Is what I'm going for. So I'm doing that this week, right? We use Class Dojo. So I'm reaching out to all the parents. Say, hey, just want to touch base, let you know that your son is a wonderful kid. Joy to have in class. Try not to be general. If there's something specific to say, I'll say it, but I'm touching base with everybody. And then one of the parents reaches back and says, "Oh, thank you. It's really great to say you made my day. He said you're his favorite teacher." So the first thing I wanted to do was like, second grade. Teachers as he had, right? And then I said, no, don't do that. Like, don't minimize that. Literally, when you have things like that happen in your life, not just, as a teacher, anything, when you have any type of positivity, whether it be small or large, really take it in, roll it around, bask in it and let it push you forward. And I mentioned this to another teacher, and she said that when things like this happen, she screenshots it and holds on to it for the bad days, the days when it doesn't feel like the kids like you at all, or when you have a negative interaction with a parent, you can say, but I do know that I am reaching and inspiring and touching not just the kids, but the kids' parents with the work that I do, so it's like sometimes you got to put drops in your own bucket, so that was this week in class. For homework, I forgot to put the link. I'll put the link in later. For homework, if you want to, my Amazon class list is still up. So if you want to be a part of my class, you can join us and help us in that way. Or if you want to adopt my class, you can do that too. Send me a DM and I'll send you the information on how to do that. Also, I would love it if you do crafts at home, or if you've done crafts in the past with your first grader or your second grader, post those for me so I can see that, and maybe I can do those things in my class. That would be great. So that is your homework for this week in class. Y'all take care.